I'm here to review The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 13, titled Forget. Now, the title Forget reflects to Sasha's character specifically in this episode. You see a Sasha that's struggling to coexist or exist in the present because the past keep holding her back. And she keeps remembering all the stuff that happened in the past. And it's like a nightmare to her. She keeps remembering about Tyree's death. And she keeps thinking about Bob. And that is holding her back. And also not allowing her to exist in the present. And you see this in this episode. In this episode, it was a lot of character development. And I love the party that Deanna had hosted to let Rick and his group meet the rest of civilization, to learn to adjust to them, and now to become mutual friends. Not quite friends, but mutual friends. And I love the symbolic meaning in that party, because a lot of people didn't catch the symbolic meaning that was in that party, and let me explain, because it was very important with that conversation that Rick and Jessie had. When Jessie was talking to Rick, she tells him this, and I love this scene. She says, "I'm just saying, we all lost things, but we got something back. It isn't enough, but it's something." And you notice, when Rick hears that, you hear Carl talking, and you see Rick look back at Carl. Again, what she says, we all lost something, but we got something back in return. Think about it. Remember in season 4 when Daryl was talking to Rick about becoming a leader for the group again at the prison. What Rick tells Daryl? He tells Daryl, he used the word lost, just like Jessie used the word lost in that sentence that I just read to y'all. We all lost something, but we all gained something in return from our loss. Rick tells Daryl, when Daryl was talking about him being a leader at the prison, he says, "Hey, we need you as the leader to come. We need you as the leader again, because if it wasn't for you, most of us wouldn't be here right now." And Rick replies, he says, "I can't do that. I almost lost my son." And when he says I almost lost my son, he was meaning I almost lost my son, but he was referring to how Carl almost lost his humanity when he had killed that guy from Woodbury in season 3 when the governor had came to attack the prison and Carl had killed that kid in the woods. That's what he was telling Daryl about. I almost lost my son. Rick Gold was always to have Carl remain a child and keep the little childhood that he does have left within him. And you see in that scene when Jessie is talking to Rick and she tells him that we all lost something, but we all gained something in return. Like I say, look how the camera zooms in at Carl and you see Carl playing with them kids. When Rick sees that, he now understands what she means. Okay, my son has got his childhood again. Because Rick was always fighting for Carl to keep his childhood. You see in that scene when she tells him that, like I say, when Rick looks at her, you see Rick, he starts to smile because what she said makes sense. I lost something, but look what I got back in return. I got my son's childhood back. And that was the most important scene to me, probably in that whole episode. Next, I love the scene with Jessie and Rick, and when Rick kissed Jessie on the cheeks. I love what the writers did, because the peck on the cheek from Rick when he kissed her is a setup. It's kind of developing their relationship, but not fully. And I love how she reacted to that. And her reaction was, okay, I like you and I'm feeling you. But at the same time, her second reaction was, I'm scared because I like you and feeling you, because I'm married and I got a husband. And it was brilliant. And I love how they didn't allow Rick to kiss her in her mouth. Because if they would have allowed him to do that from a writing standpoint, it would have definitely opened up doors and gave away the scene and showed us that it's going to happen. They're going to get together no matter what. But the peck on the cheek was just, like I said, it was just Rick showing interest in her. And the way she looks at him is like, I'm showing interest in you too, but it feels wrong, but at the same time, it feels wrong, but at the same time, it feels right. Feeling wrong means I'm married, but feeling right is that I'm feeling you, but I don't. But like I say, when they did that scene, the relationship wasn't established, and I love that. Cause like I said, they would allow him to kiss her in the mouth, then we would probably got an established relationship from them kissing in the mouth and them showing interest. So I love that scene. And next, Rick is becoming the next Shane. Now, a lot of people said this for this episode, but a lot of people don't directly talk about the scene of how Rick's become the next Shane. And also, when you saw Rick walking in the neighborhood as the constable, you see a sign, a street sign behind Rick, and it says Morgan. Now, it could be some foreshadowing of Morgan coming in to the later episodes of the rest of season 5. But when Rick was walking out, you see Pete and you see Jessie walking together, and you see how Rick get jealous and he grabs the back of his gun like he's about to pull it on Pete and kill him because he's jealous. Now remember, in season 1, episode 5 of The Walking Dead, titled Wildfire, remember when Rick and Shane went out to the woods looking for food and checking the area in the woods? Rick and Shane had got into an argument. And Rick tells Shane, he says, well, look, I'm happy for what you did for me by rescuing my family, but I'm here now, and that's my family. They my responsibility. And then Shane replies, what you say, man? He said, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be here right now. And Rick tells him, I know I can never pay you back for what you did. But then they get interrupted by some noise that was in the wood. Now notice, see the scene with Rick looking at Pete and he reached for the back of his gun in that scene? Shane does the same thing in the scene with him and Rick talking, because when Rick walks off and he gets far off into the woods, you see Shane take a shotgun because he's jealous, he's angry, and he wants what Rick have. And he takes a shotgun and he points it at Rick from a long distance, and he's angry and he want to fire at Rick, but the only thing stopped him from not doing it was because Rick was his friend and he remembered that. So notice how the scenarios are the same. Rick is in love with a married woman who's Jessie, and he wants to take Pete out the picture to be with her, just like Shane was with Rick. Shane was in love with a married woman, Lori. She was married to Rick, and he wanted to take Rick out the picture to be with Lori. So the scenarios are the same. And next scene with Daryl and Aaron. I love the chemistry between Daryl and Aaron, and I think the writers did an excellent job by putting them two together. Because when you put two people together that go through the same stuff, it's just chemistry there, and they're relatable because they went through the same stuff. And Daryl feeling like an outsider to the Alexandria Safe Zone community is coming to how Aaron felt like an outsider because he was labeled as gay. He's gay, so people in the Alexandria Safe Zone looked down on him, and he felt like an outcast to the community or to the group because how people judged him and Eric for being gay and being in a relationship. Now, look how Daryl feels. He feels like he's an outcast to the community. People judge him. And I think it's brilliant by adding these two together, because now you get to see Daryl see how Aaron is from Aaron's point of view, and you get to see how Aaron see how Daryl is. And so now it's similar, and now they can relate to each other. So therefore, that can build a relationship between the two. And next, you see the horse button. Now, a lot of people didn't catch on to that scene, but the horse button reflects to Daryl's character, because you see that horse running wild and running free. But now they try to tame that horse, and you see how Daryl is. Daryl is that horse. He's a reflection of that horse. Daryl is that horse that was running wild, running wild and free until he got to the Alexandria Safe Zone. And now Deanna is trying to tame him, trying to figure out who he is, trying to find him a job. So the horse and Daryl are similar. and they got things in common. And I love what Scott did with that scene by Daryl seeing that horse had as his reflection. And I love when Daryl sees the horse get attacked, and the horse is dying, and Aaron have to put the horse down because the horse had got attacked by zombies. From one perspective you get from that scene, you see Daryl tell Aaron after the horse is dying and he have to put the horse down. He tells Aaron to put the horse down. One perspective you get from that scene is that, okay, you tried your best to save the horse and tame it, but it didn't help. So don't blame yourself for it. And when you see that horse and you see Daryl, you think, okay, Daryl was that horse. And Daryl is thinking this himself. Okay, I'm that horse. What if I remain out here what if I remain out here running wild and free and don't want nobody to help me? Will I end up like that horse? And you see Daryl kind of thinking about that. And you see how he changed towards the end of the episode. Because one perspective, you see Daryl, he don't want to be that horse. He want to have people to help and protect him. He don't want to be wild out there, and that what could happen if he stayed wild and remain by himself and feel like an outsider. And that's one perspective that you got from that scene. And you see how at the end of the episode, Daryl wants to join the community and he ends up getting a job from Aaron. And the second perspective that I got from that scene with Daryl was, okay, it's your fault why this horse is dead, because you see the way he looks at Aaron when Aaron is grieving, and he just shakes it off his shoulder, or he just brushes off his shoulder and he walks out. And I got a perspective of Daryl saying to himself, okay, it's your fault why this horse is dead, because you tried to tame this horse. You tried to take this horse out of his habitat that this horse was used to living in. He was used to surviving. He knew how to survive. But yet you tried to tame him and you put him into a cage and you got him killed, because we followed him to this field, and this field was fenced completely up. Therefore, by it being completely fenced up, he had no way to escape. And it's our fault, because like I say, that another symbolic meaning in that final field that we saw the horse in, he got attacked in. He couldn't escape out that field because that field was completely fenced up. Now, the first field we saw him in and he escaped from, it wasn't fenced all the way up. Some of the fences was tore down, so he was able to get over those fences that was tore down. But the last field where he died in, that was completely fenced up. Wasn't no fence weakened or tore down. So you can say that fence was a cage, and he got caged in, and he died in that cage. And I love the way Daryl looked at him. He was telling him that, possibly telling him that it's your fault because you tried to tame something and you put him in a cage. And he died because of it. And then by you putting him in that cage, it's not right because, like I said, he's not used to that habitat. And Daryl was thinking the same thing about himself. By you putting me in the Alexandria safety zone and you taking me away from what I'm used to, I could go there and change for the better, or I could end up dying because now I'm caged up in a place and I don't have to rely on my survival skills anymore, and I might lose my skills. If you get what I'm saying with that scene. And now, in Daryl, like I say, Daryl was that horse. And like I say, he don't want to be caged up either. And that's the reason why he kind of related with that horse, with that horse a lot. And also, another thing Daryl was thinking, that horse didn't. What makes you think, Aaron, that horse needed you? Before you came, that horse was surviving and doing everything it had to, and it was safe. Nothing never happened to it until we came around and tried to tame it. Look at Daryl. Okay, as I just stated, Aaron, what make you think me, Daryl, I need you? Because before you came, I was surviving and I was getting around and I was doing just well. So what make you think I need you? And it's just symbolic meanings in that scene. So I hope you caught on to what I said with that scene a little bit. And next with Sasha. Sasha she's not used to community, and I love how the comic book, how Robert Kirkman gives Sasha's Rick's line from the comic book, because in the comic book, when Rick first arrives to Alexandria Safe Zone, he says to himself that this place can't be real because everybody's happy and they're enjoying themselves. Notice how in this episode, when Sasha is by the gate, Deanna come to her and talk to her, and she says, I'm still trying to figure you out. I don't know what's wrong. And then Sasha says, this place can't be real. Like I say, that was a reference took from Rick from the comic book, but they gave it to Sasha. And then back to what I was saying, she tells Deanna, this place can't be real. And Deanna say that's bullshit. And like I said, that line was taken from Rick, and they gave it to Sasha in the comic book. And I think it fits so well with Sasha instead of giving it to Rick in the TV show. And like I say, Sasha was dealing with a lot of stuff from the past in this episode that she couldn't overcome, and it was still hunting her. And every time somebody said something in this episode, it always made reference to the stuff that happened in the past. For like when Sasha was about to go out there and shoot the target and do target practice with the picture frames, you will hear, I think the woman named Felicia. She tells her, she says, look, if you go out there and you kill a boar, meaning a wild hog, can I have the leg? And then you notice how Sasha looks at her crazy, because remember, Bob got his leg cut off and Garrett ate his leg. And then what that woman just asked, if you kill a boar, a wild hog, can I have the leg? Because you eat wild hog. And she says she used to bag animals in the freezer, or take parts of the animal and put it in the freezer as food. Notice when Sasha get to the party, you hear all the people in the party talking, but they talking about stuff that she remembers that's outside of the walls. One woman was talking about how she loved the one guy's teeth. Remember, zombies have teeth that attack humans and kill them. That right there scared her. Then they was talking about food. Garrett, they was talking about food. Bob, he was food, and it all just was, how should I say it? She was like a pipe that was filled with pressure that was ready to bust. It all just came at her at once, and she just exploded. And one woman asked her, she says, what you like to eat? And she says, I'm worried. I'm worried that I cooked the wrong thing for you and you don't like it. And then Sasha replies, that's all you worried about? Meaning that the only thing you worried about is cooking me a bad meal when it have way more terrible stuff in this world, but you only worried about cooking me a bad meal that I might not like. Now, I love that scene with Sasha, and I think that Deanna need to put her on top of the church, the church balcony, for her to be the sniper, just like Andrew. It makes sense because it helps her meditate, but at the same time, it helps her get out a lot of rage by her sitting on top of that bell tower and not being a new sniper. So I hope they give her that job. And also, to wrap this up, when Carol scares the kid, it's hilarious, but what she was saying was true. But she scared them to stop him from telling anything. And also in this episode, you see how Carol gets back the guns, and Rick and Daryl meets up in the wood. And the plan was not to tell everybody else because they didn't want to get everybody else riled up. They just wanted the secret to be between them three, Daryl, Carol, and Daryl. And you notice how they tried to get Daryl the weapon now. At first, Daryl was skeptical about the place, and you would have took the weapon in a minute. But you notice how Aaron changed him, how Aaron gave him a job. Now, Aaron has turned him in to a recruiter, somebody who recruits good people to Alexandria Safe Zone, because he tells Daryl, I know it's something about you. You can see the good in people or the bad in people. And he gives Daryl another motorcycle. And if you don't remember, in season 4, Daryl was the one outside of the prison kind of looking around for survivors and recruiting people. So Daryl has got back his old job that he had in season 4 at the prison, because Daryl was the reason that Bob was at the prison, because Daryl found Bob and he recruited Bob to the prison. So Daryl was doing that before, and now for Daryl to get back his old job, that was just brilliant. And I definitely agree with that. But you see at the end of the episode, Daryl does not feel like he's needed. And he knows how he don't take the gun, and he says, let's give this place a chance before we start doing anything or trying anything. And you see how Rick and Carol looks at him crazy, like, this is not the same Daryl we was talking to a couple of days. What changed you? And we see the zombie with the W on his head. We do a video about that. And that's about all what happened in this episode. Nothing really happened. And, one more thing. How Michonne has now taken her sword and mounted it up on the wall. Symbolic meaning you get from that scene is that she's tired. She no longer have to live anymore. No, she no longer have to survive anymore. She's living life for the first time in a couple of years, and that sword is not a requirement, because if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Abraham told her this in this episode. And she don't want to die by that. She don't want to live by that. So she mounted it up now. And it was just showing you that it's time for Michonne to live. Michonne has a weapon. She has a gun now. She's a police officer. She don't need that sword no more, because that sword represents struggle. It represents pain. And that's not needed no more. You don't need it. So, love that scene. Love everything about this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. God bless you all. Have a blessed day. Remember to subscribe, rate, and thumbs up the video, and share the video. And peace. And one more thing that I forgot to mention. When Rick was at the party, Jessie's son had stamped the A on Rick's hand. Now, symbolic meaning behind that A being stamped on Rick's hand. It brought back nightmares to Rick, because Rick remembered at tournaments when he was stuck in train cargo A, when Garrett had put them in, as I just stated, in train cargo A. And also when Rick was at the church, Garrett had wrote A on the house, referring to when he had them stuck in the train cargo A. So it brings back memories, frightening memories. And you see at the end of the episode, you see Rick go by the wall in the Alexandria safe zone, and he hear a zombie trying to get through the wall. And you notice how he put his ear to the wall, and he still has the A stamp on his hand. Now Rick could have easily moved this A from his hand, or washed this stamp A from his hand, but he chose to keep it on there. And he put his hand on the wall, his ears on the wall, to hear the zombie. And it reminded you of Rick being in that train cargo, trying to hear what's going on outside of the train cargo by putting his ears on the wall that's on the train cargo. But also you see a Rick that's still addicted to that type of action, that's still addicted to that type of survival, because he wants to kill that zombie. And you see how he's itching to do it, but he know he can't, because it has a wall between them. But he's still absorbing that sound and remembering how zombies sound, and he just getting something. Like, to me, he was getting pure energy or entertainment from it, and he wants to kill it, but it's like an addiction to him. He wants to kill it, but he can't, because the wall is between them.